Hi everyone, and welcome to today's card creation for Craftie Cafe online store for the design team. I've created this masking card to have the summer kind of feel by using the tones of ink. I've brought in some Wplus9 stamp sets. This one here is the actual citrus background. This is Southern Sentiments, and then also summer citrus. Now, and plus the lawn fawn stitched hearts, which is so beautiful, and that's what we use to mask with. Now, I've created from the citrus background stamp set, I just mount on the summer fruit collection here, which is the citrus collection. There's also a couple of rows of pineapples, which my daughter fell in love with because she loves pineapples, and I'll show some sneaky pictures up fairly soon with regards to what I created with the pineapple collection. Now I'm going to heat emboss with the Lawn Fawn white embossing powder. I'm going to create a mask first, because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the heart by die cutting the mask out and stamping around that. So this is watercolor cardstock here because I wanted to blend the Distress Oxide inks quite really well on that. So what I've done is I've put the mask down. I've got my Wow Embossing clear ultra slow drying ink. It's a bit of a mouthful. And I just randomly stamp over the heart and all over the back of this cardstock here, and just making sure it's hard to see in the light, so I do in the off camera my head is going like everywhere trying to make sure I'm not over stamping over the actual pre-stamped image. So I'm just going over here and just taking my time and being mindful of where I'm actually stamping. Once I've masked this off, once I've finished that off, I'll actually just pour a whole jar of Lawn Fawn white embossing powder. This is quite a lovely embossing powder, a nice super fine white detail. Really like this one. And then what I've done is I've left the mask on, and then once I've tapped it and I've tapped it really well, I'm going to peel that mask off. That's revealing the actual mask part, the heart of the actual background. So I'll heat set that, and I'll heat set that off camera, and then I'll bring into view what I've done. Now I've placed that mask back on the center here, and I'm just going to use this Wild Honey Distress Oxide ink. I love the vibrancy and the colors that these actual inks really leave on the cardstock. Really beautiful to blend with as well. One of my go-to inks really are the Distress Oxide range. Now once I've felt happy with how much color I used, I then bring in the second color, which is the Worn Lipstick, and this is more towards the edge. And you can see with embossing how it really reveals the images. I take great pleasure in doing heat embossing because I just love the actual wow part of it all and how it just appears, especially the white on white. So giving it a good inking up, and I'm taking the initial color off. It's habit because I've done that with the Distress Oxide ink, and really you don't need with the Distress inks, and you really don't need to do that with the Distress Oxide because they're very blendable. But yeah, I've just gotten so used to the habit of having a scrap piece of paper, which I already had there anyway, and then dabbing it off the excess ink first, which you could still do, but it's not as necessary. And there you go, how the masking also reveals the image itself. So a lot of reveals here in this particular card. So I have got my Tonic Ranger stamping tool here, and I've got to make sure I use the clear side because I'm using a clear stamp, bringing in the Southern Sentiments I love this Bless Your Heart. It's got some really sweet coordinating sentiments with the summer citrus range. So I've really enjoyed using this beautiful sentiments. And I thought it'd just go well with the masking of the Lawn Fawn stitched hearts. Now I'm going to use the Lawn Fawn black ink. This is a really good crisp black ink, and it's from Lawn Fawn, and it's also Copic friendly as well. But for this particular card, I'm just using it to get a good solid black image. I will stamp this a couple of times, just because it is watercolor cardstock. I really feel like with all the texture of the cardstock, you really need to stamp it twice. You could have left it, but no, me personally, I liked a really crisp black ink image. Alright, and you can see how much better it is the second time round. Now, these magnets are really strong magnets, and I thoroughly enjoy how you can really stamp more than once and your project will not move. Now I've just stuck down a wooden veneer heart, just using my Ranger Multi Matte Medium adhesive. I'm just going to place now some twine 3 times around the top part of the actual card, and then I'm just going to adhere that down with some glue dots. I find this is quite a tacky adhesive, and my twine never moves once I've used that to stick down with. Then I'm going to use some liquid adhesive to actually adhere the card front on, and that way I can move it with my Tombow. I've got a little bit of room time, so if I feel like I didn't get it on straight, I can then wiggle it around to make sure it's on symmetrical. Now, just using the same black twine, I'm just tying a little bow. And I do fiddle around with it a little bit, trying to get it perfect, but also adhering the same bow and twine down with the glue dots again, just to get some really good adherence down on this. And then I give it a little bit of a trim. I fiddle way too much on this bow, but I got it right in the end. And there you go, a simple card creation for Craftie Cafe. Don't forget to leave a comment on our blogs and our YouTube. Can't wait to hear from you. See you later.